Hi guys, Eva here, and today, finally, for once on time, I have my November 2018 reading wrap-up. I have read a total of 19 things this month, and 9 of those were books and 10 were graphic novels, no manga this month. And in terms of pages that I've read, considering just the books, not the graphic novels, all the books amounted to a total of pages of 3,036. Then these statistics I'm gonna give you now includes both graphic novels and books. So as far as genre goes, I've read 5 fantasy, 2 sci-fi, one of which could be considered also fantasy sci-fi, 2 middle grade books, 1 historical fiction / fantasy, 1 literary fiction, 1 contemporary YA, 1 urban fantasy, and 5 horrors. And as far as the rating goes, 1 book was in the range of 2 stars, 5 books were in the range of 3 stars, which range means that they can go from 3 stars to 3.75 stars. That's still considered for this statistic in the 3 range stars. 10 books were in the range of 4 stars, so between 4 and 4.75 stars, and 3 books were 5 stars, books / graphic novels, which is a miracle. I had a really good reading month. And now let's get into the books. I will speak about the books and then the graphic novels in the end. If by any chance this gets too long, I'll cut it into just books and graphic novels in a separate video. Depends on whatever. I'll let you know in the title if that's the case. But yeah, I will start with the books and then graphic novels, so you can skip around if you're not interested in one or the other. I have this book where I record all my books, like each page you have all the statistics, and then here you can just, write down all the books. It's amazing. I just want to show you how cool is my reading log book. So the first book that I read this month is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This was a buddy read, but I think I kind of lost my friends in the middle of it. I don't even know if he finished that. This is the first book in a high fantasy adult series, Asian inspired, meaning that all the cast of characters are Asian, and I think it takes place in a kind of alternative China. You follow Runin, which is a beautiful name. Runin, she has nothing, she comes from nothing, and all she wants to do is escape the small village where she was born and raised. Some aunt or foster parents, I don't remember which one of the two, I think aunt. The way she can do that is by passing this really difficult test to get into this military school, which is a really prestigious school, but only elite people usually attend the school, as they are the only one that can afford to study enough to pass the exam. So she decides to study hard enough and to try out this test to get into this academy while a war is coming. Sometimes books, I like to think as books as raw emotions. Like when I read a book, I live the life of the protagonist. I am there, and if I have to choose one emotion for this book, that would be rage. Reading this book was like setting fire to the world. It was crazy, and I felt so relieved at the end of it because it was so full of revenge and wrath that I really enjoyed it. Kind of an escape to my own rage. I wish I could do it, but in normal life you cannot. You have to control your emotions and deal in another ways with people in your life and any kind of challenge that presents itself. But when you read a book, you can just let those emotions go. And at the end of the book, I felt like a burden was left off my shoulder because this book satisfied all my inner evil and inner wrath. I'm not saying this book was perfect. I enjoyed the first part more. I wished we had more of the academy part, which doesn't take more than half of the book, not even that. And also in few instances I thought Runin was kind of passive, which didn't sit well with her character. But she got back on track, don't worry. But apart from those things, she was the anti-hero that I needed in my life. And this book has no romance, so if you're worried about that, this book may be for you. This book is really graphic and violent. The way she goes about getting revenge and getting power, I just loved her journey. And she's a great character, a true great character that doesn't justify her actions, even when they can be considered wrong, she owns them. And that's what I love about her. And I loved her for it. She wants more power, more revenge. She wants everything to burn. And I am here. I cannot wait to read the second book. I really like this. I gave this 4.5 stars. Then I've read Senlin Ascens by Josiah Bancroft, and this is the first book in a sci-fi fantasy series. The premise is that this man travels with her newly wed wife to this Tower of Babel, which is kind of this epic tower that no one has ever seen the ends of it, and each level of the tower is a different city with different themes and peculiarities. So they arrive at the tower, and before they can actually get inside the tower, the wife gets lost in the market outside. So he thinks that the only way he has to find her is to go inside the tower and meet her at the third level, where they said, if we ever get lost, let's meet there. So he gets into the tower and chaos ensues. This book is weird. I have to say that the writing wasn't my cup of tea, meaning that it was a little bit confusing, and sometimes I was lost with all those words. I was like, what's going on? But it was not bad. I think it was just, it didn't click perfectly with me. And the protagonist is someone who would never be a potential protagonist in probably any book you've ever read. He's like plain, middle-aged, almost, not middle-aged, but like 30 years old teacher, not very interesting. However, it gets interesting because this man gets into a tower as this really plain man, and by the time he keeps ascending the levels of this tower and going through all these kind of adventures, he matures in a really interesting and smart character, which I really appreciated. I love the female characters in this book. I thought they were really interesting, well layered. Some plot twists I saw coming, but many others I did not. And I will definitely continue on with this series. Overall, I didn't like the atmosphere of this tower. I thought it was really cold and kind of creepy, but I think that's what the author wanted to convey to us, to readers. So I think he did this job well, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Then I've read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the 8th book, if you want to call it that, in the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany and Jack Thorne. Now, I read this after watching the play at the Palace Theatre in London. I was lucky enough that for my birthday last year, I bought tickets. I went this October, so I had to wait like 10 months, but I saw the original play. And I believe that this book is meant to be a play. It was never meant to be a book. This should not have happened. This should have been just a play, and they could have released it on DVD and Blu-ray, and people would have loved this way more than they criticized the book. So I am judging this book after watching the play, so I don't know what I would think about this book, which takes place 20 years past the events of the 7th Harry Potter book. So we are following actually the son of Harry Potter, Albus, and while he gets his way through Hogwarts. And as I said, I have no idea what I would have thought about this book if I didn't watch the play before that. One of the main complaints that people had about this book was that the characters didn't feel the same as they did in the original books. And I was like, no one is the same after 20 years has passed. I'm nothing like I was when I was 6 years old. In 20 years time, I will probably be very different. So we left Harry Potter when he was like 18, 19, and now he's a middle-aged man and with sons and a daughter, and he's completely different. Not completely, but he's really different as they are all the other characters. And I didn't get what the fuss was about, honestly. Like, you are not the same as you were 20 years ago. No one is. And it's normal. Life goes on, and you are not the same as you were as a teenager. So yeah, that complaint, I was like, mind you, Harry Potter is not the best in this book, but come on, he never was. I mean, unpopular opinion, no, I'm kidding. I love Harry Potter. I love the series. It's one of my favorite ones, and I love Harry, but he's not my favorite character in the series if I have to choose, and probably he's not the favorite characters of many others. So I think what makes Harry Potter so special is Harry, but all the other characters around him as well. He would not be Harry Potter without Hermione, Ron, Hagrid, Severus, and so on, right? So yeah, he's kind of a douche in this playbook. Yeah, I can see his point though. I can see why he would be so concerned, I guess. So I understood him at the end of the day. I could see his point, even if it was wrong. Scorpio is my precious. He was, if you see the play, it was like, I'm gonna abduct him and just bring it to my house and keep him with me forever because he's so precious. It was awesome. The actor in the play was amazing, and so it was in the book. The book is a perfect transcript of the play. I have to say that the final battle was a little bit like anticlimactic, like it was nothing special, so I would have loved to see more. And also, if I had to find a critique, personal critique, is that I don't like the idea that a child has to be tainted by their parents. I would have loved if they pointed out the fact that the bad guy was the product of a harsh upbringing that never left him any room to grow in anything different if not the bad guy. But overall I loved how throughout this plot we could get to see so many old characters, loved ones. It was just heartwarming, and rereading this for me was just like rewatching the play in my head. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. And this was a really short book, and it's about this girl that she's an orphan and she lives in this alternative London called Londra, which is how in Italian we would say London. And she lives by finding objects, Thames River basically. So she finds these objects and then sells them. And I don't want to say anything else because this book is so short that anything would be kind of a spoiler. But yeah, she kind of encounters this weird object and the story takes place from there. This was really short. As this was really short, it didn't give me enough time to grow attached to any characters, and the protagonist was not my favorite by any means, but I loved the folklore behind it, and I love the atmosphere of this London, this Londra. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and I will check out more by this author. I found in the library City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, and this is her middle grade book. I would call this horror middle grade. And this is about this girl that, since she has a near-death experience, she can see ghosts. And she travels with her parents that are kind of paranormal detectives to Edinburgh. She goes there with them that are filming this TV show, and yeah, there are bad ghosts around. This was actually probably one of the best Victoria Schwabs that I've read so far. I've not read many by her, I've just read probably 1 or 2 books by her. So I actually like the fact that even if the writing was pretty simple, as it is middle grade, it still had that quirkiness that made me enjoy it, and I will probably continue on with the series. I don't know if I will ever buy the books or check them out from the library, but I ended up giving this 3.75 stars, and overall I had a nice experience short book. Then I picked up My Lady Jane by hand, Ashton Meadows, not entirely the true story, and this is a historical fiction / fantasy. Basically, they took the story of Jane Grey that was queen for just 9 days and they retold it, adding fantasy elements in it. Now, I don't have any problem with historical fiction. I don't have any problem with fantasy. I don't have any problem with horses or with husbands that are also horses. I don't have any problem with retelling history. Say that the combination of all those elements in this book for me didn't work. I found this boring, super long, boring, it was dragging on. Honestly, it was kind of absurd. Like the dynamics and these characters shape-shifting. It was, I found it a bit ridiculous. It was funny, the humor in it was good. I think it was just a case for me that it was a little bit too cheesy for me. The relationships were too far-fetched. Like, come on, like, not even in that scenario something like that would happen. Like, even if people turn into horses during daytime, that would never happen anyway. It was just too far-fetched, cheesy at times. I like the humor, but will I continue on with the series? no, I will not. This dragged on so much. I had a hard time finishing this. I gave this 2.5 stars, and yeah, I am selling my copy. And then after that, I picked up The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, with a Spanish author. This I consider literary fiction, and this is about Daniel that when he is around 10 years old is brought by his father at the cemetery of the forgotten books. And it's a place, secret place in Barcelona, where they hold all the books that have been lost to history. And he can go inside with his father, and he has to choose one book and treasure that book, because he's the only one that will probably have a chance to read that book. So he chooses one book, and he gets obsessed with the author Julian Carax and his story, because Julian Carax has disappeared, and he goes through this journey during the years to find out what happened to Julian Carax, the author of this book called The Shadow of the Wind. This is my only 5-star book of the whole year. Yes, I don't think I gave any other book this year, and we are in November. I think I was not expecting anything from this book. And then I started reading, and the writing was so amazing that I just couldn't put this down. I was honestly intrigued. Literary fiction for me is always a miss. Many times I was like, this is kind of boring. But this is a literary fiction / mystery, and it's so well crafted with a splendid, awesome, like so poetic writing. It just flows by so quickly. It's a big book, and as you can see, I love the quotes in this. I love this book. Now I have to read everything he has ever written, because I think his writing did half the job. And said that the mystery is really, really good. You following what happens to Julian Carax is so intriguing. He creates an awesome, eerie atmosphere in Barcelona, and you love the characters. Each of them are so well made, like unique. The story, the end, it's just, I loved it. I loved discovering what happened to Julian Carax. I found this book in a list of books called 10 books to recommend to people that never read, in order for them to fall in love with books, and this was there, and I cannot agree more. If you haven't tried this, give it a chance. You won't regret it. As I said, I didn't give any 5 stars. I was super strict this year, but this one deserved it, and I will continue on. This is the first book in a series. The other ones are companion. This is one of my favorite books ever now. Then I read John for Short by Mallory Blackman, and this is a middle grade horror. It's a really short book with illustrations, and it's about this boy that wakes up in hospital after something happened, and throughout this book you find out what happened basically to him. And it was okay. It was aimed to terrify young kids, and maybe it was eerie-ish, but yeah, it was really on the really middle grade. I gave this 3 stars. It was just okay. Then finally I've read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and this is my contemporary YA. Said that this is not romance, and this is about this girl that she is at a party. She meets one of her friends. Something happens at the party. They have to flee. She gets in the car with him, and they are stopped over by a police officer on their way home, and the police officer ends up shooting dead her friend while he was doing nothing wrong, basically. And this is all about the Black Lives Matter movement. The protagonist is a black girl, the guy that is dead is a black guy, and the police officer is a white police officer. So this is about the aftermath of the accident and how the protagonist deals with the death of her friend, and with the fact that police officers are often not condemned for unjustified killings. What I really loved about this book was the family dynamics that Star had going on. Her family, her parents, brothers, and circle of friends, most of them were amazing. I did find her a little bit like in the beginning, after her friend died, she was talking about shoes and how she preferred tacos, and it was like, come on girl, your friend just died and you're talking about shoes. Kind of obsessed with shoes, and we get that a lot in this book. So she was cool, but she was not my favorite. I think I loved their family so much more. She treated also her boyfriend like shit, and the poor guy, he was adorable. He was doing all the right things, and she's really harsh on him. Overall, she was okay, but she was not my favorite by any means. The importance of saying things that are wrong, and the importance of making others hearing the truth and your own voice, and especially stopping what's going on, it's really important. Really appreciated this book. I gave it 4.25 stars. I cannot wait to watch the movie. I will link down below a TED talk that this woman makes, and she talks about intersectionality. So every time we hear in the news or in a book, it's always a black guy getting killed by the police without justification, but people don't know about how many women, black women, went through the same shit and died at the hands of police officers while doing nothing. So hear her out. I was crying at the end of that speech. If you have 20 minutes of your time, do check that TED talk out, because I think knowing not also about this, but also knowing about intersectionality and what that means and what's going on in our society is really, really important. And these women, as well as the men, deserves recognition. So yeah, do me a favor, check that out. I will divide this video. I will talk about the graphic novel in another video. Thank you for watching. I would love for you to subscribe if you are not already, so hit the button down below. Enjoy your day, night, depending on where you are.